Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme, well, after the fallout from Scotland's loss to Slovakia and all the talk around Gordon Strachan's position as manager, it's back to domestic issues. We'll discuss Inverness Cally Thistle against Rangers tonight. We'll also look at all the weekend's games. We'll look at a possibility of a European League and an extended World Cup, all in the company of Alan Ruff, and I'm delighted to say, back from his travels, our regular Friday bootroom guest Hugh McDonald joins us here on the programme to talk football, among other things. Hugh, delighted to have you back with us. Before we get to the domestic issues, we may as well cut to the chase. We haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. Scotland manager Gordon Strachan will still be in charge for the game against England at Wembley.
Yeah, I think, but I don't expect him to be. I think that'll be swan song. I think that'll be it. I think he'll walk after that. I don't think there's any appetite for the SFA to dismiss him, but I don't think there's any appetite for him to continue. I mean, people are saying, well, if we win against England, etc., etc., but I mean, I would imagine that is far-fetched in the least.
You don't even think there's the wildest chance that Scotland could go there and win?
I don't think so. I mean, football's a strange game, and everybody's got a chance. But England have not lost a qualifier for quite some time, and the idea that they would lose one at home to a team that's just been beaten 3-0 by Slovakia I think it's a long shot.
Just on that point, do you think he should still be in charge for the game against England?
Well, I don't think he should have been in charge. We've been through this in this programme. I mean, I don't think he should have been in charge for this campaign. But I think now the level of how near it is to the England game, I think it's probably reasonable that he carries on. I don't think it matters anyway because the World Cup campaign is now in tatters. It's finished.
Yeah, done in?
Done, absolutely done.
Yeah. Would you change the team dramatically for this one against England, or would you just think he should stick with the tried and trusted? I
don't think he'll change it dramatically, no. I think there'll be pressure on him to bring in Griffiths, of course, because that's been the one of the millstones round his neck, not playing Griffiths. But I don't think there'll be major changes at all, no.
Yeah, and you think it's quite reasonable, maybe after 3 games, that they should have been looking somewhere else?
Well, as I say, I'd have been looking somewhere else before 3 games.
Yeah.
But I think after 3 games, once your World Cup campaign is finished, I think it's reasonable to say, well, what we're going to do here? I mean, do we just limp on and try and collect the odd point here or there? I mean, it's done.
Yeah, have you got a name for us that the potential could take this on? Ruffy thinks Alex McLeish.
Yeah, well, see what I would rather do? I would rather if I was in the SFA, I would actually draw up a plan for what they want. Do they want a coach to coach the national team, or do they want somebody to lead the whole coaching structure? Then come up with an advert for either, whatever they want, and then look at the candidates that come, because there's plenty of candidates out there. It's I think some dramatic's got to be done. I think some fresh has got to be done.
What, like Think Tank 3?
Well, this is a problem, isn't it? We've been down that road so often. But I think we'll have to decide, perhaps, not to buy in a coach, because we know his name and we know he's Scots, but try and get, widen the net a wee bit. That's got dangers as well, Peter. We know that. That's good when we can go down the Bertie Vogts route, the Ronnie Dyler route as well.
Yeah.
But I think there's got to be some real joined-up thinking here.
Yeah. What, to the extent of the Germans, the way they did it, reboot the system?
They completely rebooted their system, and I think we have to do that. Although many people say that the young boys coming through, but they always say that, don't they, until they actually come through, and then we don't. But even that, I think, see, the big problem with Gordon Strachan for me was not that we didn't beat Germany or we didn't beat even Poland. The big problem is we go to Georgia, we don't get a shot on target. We draw at home with Lithuania. Now, you can talk about we're not having worldies and we don't have a Gareth Bale in it. We've got better players in Georgia. We've got better players in Lithuania. It's as simple as that. We should be beating them. That's the problem.
Yeah. Ruffy, Wednesday you said a 3-0. You wanted him to go. Thursday you changed your mind. You thought maybe he should stay. Where are you on Friday?
Friday, I am sticking by him. I agree with everybody else. I think we all know Gordon, and we look at the history of the clubs he's been at: Coventry, Middlesbrough, Celtic to a certain extent as well. He's a family guy. He won't stand any media blast at him. You know, he'll walk away if we don't get that result. I think he's the kind of guy who likes his private life. You know, he loves the football, obviously, but when it's not going well, he tends to say, well, I don't really need this, and walk away. I hope we do get a result against England, and I hope that it's a positive one, and I hope he doesn't have to make that decision, because let's not kid ourselves on. If we get beat 2 or 3-0 with England, there will be a fallout. There will be a massive fallout for everybody.
OK, here's what the current Celtic manager makes of Gordon Strachan.
I think he's perfectly suited to being the manager of Scotland. You know, wonderful experience as a manager. You know, he showed in many clubs, and in this club here, they can get the best out of players. There's maybe deeper issues and problems within Scottish football, and but like I say, I haven't been here long enough to see what they might be. But obviously, of course, when you're the manager, you're always under the spotlight. But I think he's a good guy when I've spoke to him, and he's certainly got a lot of knowledge of football, both domestic and international football.
OK, that's what Brendan Rodgers makes of the whole situation. Let's turn our attention now to matters closer to home. You've been away for, 4 weeks? I don't know if you're aware of this, but Joey Barton is not playing for Rangers at the moment, Hugh. I just thought I'd keep you right up to date with what's happening.
Joey Barton signed for Rangers?
No, he's signed for them, and now he's not playing for them.
Yeah, I've kept up. I mean, the world's media and Twitter has kept up to date with this. I mean, he's not playing for Rangers at the moment. I don't think he'll play for Rangers again, do you? I mean,
no.
I think I think everything now is negotiating just what they do with Joey Barton. One thing I'm really surprised about the Joey Barton thing, and I would like to know, is if Rangers, when they were offering his contract, had some sort of get-out clause of, a morals clause, like, for disciplinary matters, etc., and they can get out that way.
No, I don't think. If that had been the case, he'd been out 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Well, I was just wondering if they were just waiting for the gambling issue and just do them on that.
I think that's what we're waiting on. I think it's coming at the start of next week. Some kind of definitive statement coming out once their people talk to Joey's people, and we see where the land lies. I think HR might have a lot to do with it, but. Nevertheless, it's Inverness against Rangers, and Mark Warburton says the home form, the away form, I beg your pardon, has got to improve, and they come up against a side who really have started to turn things around. He's manager of the month, Richie Foran. Yeah,
sticky start. Apparently, had a couple of good results at the beginning in the League Cup, and then had a couple of poor ones. Yeah, turned it around, but it takes time as well when he's actually changing the whole ethos of the club. I think he's going a wee bit more direct, he's going a bit more robust, mixing it up a wee bit. And you've got to remember that he's not dealing with the top players there. He's got some quality, but it's a tight budget there. I think he's done it really well, really well.
It's the type of game up there that it'll be tricky for Rangers going up to the Tulloch Stadium. I mean, this is not a gimme, Robbie.
No, it's not, and it's not the greatest environment to be in. You're generally up there, it's blowing a gale, the stadium's like all over the place. You see Celtic getting up there on numerous occasions and expecting them to come away with an easy win, and it's not happened for whatever reason. I think the Inverness boys have now got the bit between their teeth. I think they're digging in for their manager. And it's not going to be a great game to watch, but I think Rangers will have to be at their best to get a win.
Oh, you've certainly set it up nicely for us. I was looking forward to it, Ruffy. Just on that point, Hugh, Richie Foran says, don't write Rangers off for the title yet. I wonder which way that was phrased by a journalist towards the Inverness manager.
Yeah, quite. Managers of in the position. We're listening to the Brendan Rodgers tape as well. I mean, what's he going to say? About Gordon Strachan? Say, well, probably Gordon's time is up, and he should move on. I mean, managers are put in these positions where they're not going to. They're in areas where of controversy, shall we say?
There's a code of conduct.
A code of conduct.
Yeah, well, they're not going to actually go and turn on each other. It has happened from time to time, but that's called a back page exclusive. Okay, just briefly, Inverness or Rangers or a draw?
I think it'll be a draw.
I'm going to go Rangers.
Yep, okay, there you are. Ruffy, going Rangers on the 6:30 show, but don't forget the replay of this programme is at around about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it may well change from them. Ruffy could demand a re-edit, you just never know. Okay, after the break we're going to talk Brendan Rodgers, Moussa Dembele, a European League, an extended World Cup, and of course lots of football ahead. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Hugh McDonald is with us here in the studio looking ahead to the weekend's football. Don't forget to join us on Saturday, 2 o'clock. Murdo McLeod and Alan Ruff will join us in the studio along with Frank McAvenny as well from 2 o'clock here on STV Glasgow, STV Edinburgh. Okay, let's look to a couple of news things before we start to discuss the games. This is a director of FC Copenhagen mentioning it could be a European league, and he thinks it's going to be inevitable. Hugh McDonald.
Yeah, I think the way that football is going is that there's going to be inevitably going to be huge changes. It's not the European League that Peter Lawwell would be wanting to get into. I mean, let's be honest, it's a sort of almost like second tier one. They're talking about teams like Rosenborg, Copenhagen, Scandinavian, Belgium.
But do you
whatever.
anticipate it being a league, Hugh, where Celtic and Rangers just leave the Scottish League, or is this some kind of European competition?
It seems to be a halfway house at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's the same. I mean, I think further down the line, if anything like that ever took off, you might have the case, if it took off big time, that you would have a Celtic and Rangers playing in the European League and then have a almost like Colts team playing in the under 23 team playing in the Scottish League. I think it's kind of half boiled at the moment because it has to be, because everything's changing so fast in football. I mean, what's coming in now is like the Chinese money that's coming in now is incredible. And the Chinese guys have come, and I've seen to people, and when I was in Spain for 4 weeks, and it's a huge story in Spain, they've said to the La Liga teams, don't go in the Champions League, come in our league. We'll just create a league. And the La Liga guys are looking at that. That's why UEFA have made so many kind of like compensations to them or compromises with them because they know that there's almost like a Kerry Packer. If people can remember the old Kerry Packer cricket thing,
Yeah, very much so.
There's almost that scenario happening. The money in China is astonishing, Peter, and the appetite for it is voracious.
Yeah, I have no doubt, Ruffy, that the game will change dramatically over the next 20 years. Whether that's to Scotland as a nation's benefit, I'm not so sure. I think it's very much the whole of football seems to be going towards an appetite in business for greed and protect oneself, as you would expect.
Yeah, well, we saw what happens when you have got money. We saw Celtic getting the advantage of Champions League money. I think we're all assured that they're going to win the league, basically because they have more resources than anybody else. We look at the teams down in England, the top 4 teams, now that they are generating all that kind of money and buying the best players, will now come to the top again. Okay, last year was a wee bit of a blunt, but this year I expect the top 4 to be again. I'm like you, I think it's not the place for Celtic, and I throw Rangers into that category as well. In 10 years' time, they'll want to be where the Milans and the Juventus and the Barcelonas, they want to be going to Copenhagen. They won't see that, so they'll be doing everything in their power to make sure when it does happen that they have the criteria to join the big guys rather than the other.
It's all speculation, Hugh, but I'd love to see the kind of setup that, you know, eventually the 4 countries who are at the forefront of being greedy, let's be honest about it, and and I include Karl-Heinz Rummenigge as the figurehead of this because he's the man who stuck his head above the parapet on it. But I think all the names should be remembered on the basis that, quite simply, go and play each other non-stop because eventually people will get tired of it.
I don't know. I really don't. I think it's become such big box office now, Peter, that if you've got enough clubs and enough big clubs, if there was only maybe 6 or 8 of them playing each other, you would go, yeah, this is. But if you've got 16 of them playing in the league and they're all big, they're all Milan, it's Paris Saint-Germain, it's Barca, it's Atletico, it's Real, it's Manchester United. And
Let me ask you this, Hugh. About 5 or 6 years ago, the semi-finals of the Champions League was made up with, what, 75% the English clubs?
Teams, yep.
And Michel Platini was panicking. Chelsea today have announced a
Yeah,
£900 million
£900
sponsorship with Nike.
Yep.
Now, with all due respect, this is obviously a great way for everyone to get round the UEFA fair play, you know, with the money that's coming in and not overspending on your budget. Nobody's going to get within touching distance of all of them. If the English clubs start to dominate the way I think they will again in the next 5 years, what happens then when it becomes totally dominated by the cash-rich English clubs?
Well, that's why the La Liga clubs in particular are pushing for changes in the Champions League, because they're seeing now wanting more money out of the Champions League, because the big move that's going to come shortly, and we'll talk about Gareth Bale's buyout clause of 450 million, etc. There's a reason for that. The big thing at one time was no top player from Real Madrid or Barcelona would come to England. You know, you would get an Ozil who was, you know, they were ready offload.
Yeah, they could do without him.
They could do without him. You would get that kind of thing. You would get a Pedro from Barcelona. You wouldn't get a Neymar, you wouldn't get a Bale, you wouldn't get a Ronaldo, you wouldn't get a Messi, etc. The La Liga now think, wait a minute, the English clubs can get that. And once that comes, the ball's bursting in La Liga. You know, they suddenly say to themselves, we're so far behind we can't catch up. And that's why they're looking at the Champions League as huge money, because the money in England is astonishing. Manchester United's turnover this year, without now looking at any prize money from Europe, which will be minimal because it's Europa League, £500 million. £500 million. It's astonishing money.
Yep, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see how this all unfolds, but we will undoubtedly talk about it at greater length in forthcoming programmes. From the Europa League to the World Cup,
Yep.
Gianni Infantino obviously wants to make an impression. Is he trying to get some votes from other countries, or is he basically looking and saying, okay, let's extend this 40 teams, 48 teams, you know, maybe a playoff thrown in there as well?
He's doing both, but the first one is the stronger element. He's trying to get, you know, votes, and I'm sure the SFA will be putting their wee X next to the 40 clubs in it. The other thing about that is, we talked about Champions League and club football. I think there's going to be a revolution in international football. And out of those 40 teams, I think at one point, not in, you know, maybe 10 years, 15 years, that there'll be teams who won't play qualifying at all. They'll be seeded to qualify.
Well, we're looking at 16 seeded teams and 32 in a playoff.
Yep, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the clubs again are pushing. They're saying, why are we sending Aguero 17 hours on a flight to Colombia on our money, and our dough, and our time? The clubs are also saying, what's all this about all these weekends off in the middle of their season?
Yeah.
And I don't think the big leagues will be pushing hard on that.
Radical change here, the way you're talking, Robbie.
Yeah.
What a
Well,
transformation.
that's all we're here to see it.
Well, unless it happens next week. Unless it happens next week.
With all due respect, Robbie, it's 2026. If we get Peter and Robbie on 2026, you paid off your house.
As long as we get to the end of the show, I'd be quite happy.
Yeah, don't count your chickens on it. 40, are you in favour? 48 possibly, Robbie.
Yeah, well, Gordon's already kiboshed it by the playoff system. What was he saying? They're going to take 16 teams over. You're going to play 2 games, and if you get knocked out, you're away back home again. We're certain to be in that. We're certain to fall into that category. But no, I think if you're part of your country and you're playing in the team, you just want to be there. You know, I know the supporters won't like it, you know, going over for 2 games and then coming back, but do you think that just actually getting there
that's what I'm saying,
would be the best?
Absolutely. And of course, you know, you mentioned something there which, again, is all about the money. I mean, 450 million buyout for Gareth Bale.
Yeah.
I think Ronaldo's got improved personal terms as well. The money is astronomical. I've no problem with them earning it, quite simply, Hugh, because the money is there. The clubs are taking it in.
They're the stars, they're the guys that are there. I've got no problems about, I always laugh when people always talk about, oh, look at, Gareth Bale earns that and a nurse earns that. Listen, bankers and hedge fund managers that put us all in the bing.
Yeah.
They were.
Glad you got big out.
I mean, they've earned more than that. So actually, to talk about the even further about the radicalisation of football, there's almost a case now in England that you could have. I don't think it'll be long before you have the first £1 million a week.
Wow.
Player.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just glad that we get our clauses in here for this show.
Yeah,
we had to
absolutely.
stick it out for a
And to
few
think,
other
when I
times.
was a boy looking in the shoot in the Match Weekly, I just saw Ruffy standing with Asa Hartford in front of a Chrysler Sunbeam, and I thought, wow, he must be getting 30, 40 quid for that. You'll be getting a good wedge. And now, what would Ruffy be worth in today's market? I wonder. Look at Ruffy wishing he was part of that deal. Okay, time to switch your attention to domestic issues coming up after the break. We'll look at the player of the month for September. We'll hear from Moussa Dembele. We'll hear more from Brendan Rodgers on that game against Motherwell. There's some tasty games, not only in the Premiership, but the Championship, League One and League Two. We'll also look at the Barclays Premier League as well. It's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is with me, Peter Martin, and Hugh McDonald will still be with us. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Lots of football to look forward to. Here are the fixtures that we can look forward to on the Saturday afternoon in the Premiership. Of course, Inverness Cally Thistle taking on Rangers on the Friday night, and it's Aberdeen against Ross County. Celtic Motherwell, Hearts against Dundee, Partick Thistle against Hamilton, and St Johnstone take on Kilmarnock. Celtic against Motherwell, Steve McManus has already mentioned they've got nothing to lose. They were given a real pasting the last time they came up against Celtic, so now it's a chance to maybe readdress things, but it won't be easy for them at Celtic Park.
Yeah, but I think we'll readdress the tactical formation as well, because I think Mark McGee was fairly open the last time against them, and sort of thought that he could maybe give Celtic a game in the sense of an open game, which proved to be absolutely wrong. And Mark admitted it at the end of the match. So I think they'll be much tighter tomorrow. Again, it's all that one about first goal, etc., etc. But I think Celtic are so good in this division now. They don't seem to have the problems that Ronnie Dyler's side could have of breaking teams down. And I think Scott Sinclair is completely and utterly central to that in the way that he makes runs. He's all the time, he's just stretching defences. I mean, he might not be getting all the attention that Dembele's getting, but I think he's been sensational for Celtic.
Yeah, and in the league, Robbie, apart from a slip up against Inverness, it's Celtic just winning game after game now. There doesn't seem to be any let up.
Yeah, as Hugh just touched on it there, it seems to be the pace that they play at. Look at the players that Hugh's talked about. They just have that ejection of pace that can cause havoc. The tempo they play at as well, the sharp passing seems to cause most teams problems. And Hugh's perfectly right. I think all credit to Mark. He went to Parkhead the last time to not shut up shop. He went there to try and get something. But he might have a rethink about it, because you can't be coming away from there 5 and 6-0 all the time. It's just not good enough for the players with the other games, to get their heads right for the more important games coming up.
Of course, Borussia Mönchengladbach on the horizon. All the talks about Dembele, not Karamoko Dembele, but Moussa Dembele. He's the player of the month for September. First and foremost, let's hear from the striker himself on winning the award and playing for Celtic.
For me, this was the next level after Fulham. I had to come in a massive club and show that I can do it in the high level, and that's what I've done. I've done here, and I feel that after Fulham, this is the next step, and I'm doing well, so I'm happy. And
I think it's taken him a bit of time to get used to Scottish football, but you always thought he was going to be a star.
Yeah, I've got one thing right with Celtic this season and one thing wrong. I always thought Dembele was going to be a star, not because I had watched him or anything like that, but I was down in London in March and I was talking to agents down there, and they were amazed that the kid was coming to Celtic. They thought, you know, he's a Premier League squad player, if not a starter, certainly a squad player.
Yeah.
So the kid's made a young man, he was 19 then, he's 20 now, he's made a decision where he said, right, I'm going to come up to Celtic, get a, you know, possibly Champions League, which has happened. I'll get a chance to start and a chance to kick on my career, and it's really worked on it for him. So, but he's been hugely impressive. The thing I got wrong and drastically wrong about Celtic is Scott Brown, because I felt that Scott Brown in the summer, you know, might have been ditched by Rodgers. I thought he was so poor last season. I know he had the groin injury, but I thought he was so poor last year. I thought, oh, there's a decision going to be made, and I'll hold my hand up and say completely, utterly wrong, because he's been superb this season.
Yep, Dembele certainly has been continuing that for him for the French under-21 side as well. He's certainly showing an eye for goal, confidence is high, and of course now you're getting everybody in their granny, apparently scouts in the stadium looking at him as well, Ruffy.
Yeah, he's done well. Yeah, I think if we cast our mind over the last 2 or 3 years, every striker that came into Celtic from wherever it was just couldn't hit the back of the net, and if you don't hit the back of the net with a team like Celtic early on, sometimes it can be a very, very hard place to be. You know, supporters want goals, and when they see, you know, a player coming up, they expect goals. And but lucky for him, the hat trick he got just sort of kicked him off. And like all good strikers, every time he gets the ball, you know, he looks as if he's going to hit the back of the net. The downside from us is Lee Griffiths. You know, will Brendan Rodgers find a place for both of them? Because we need Lee Griffiths playing games, and unfortunately for Lee, it's incredible, you know, the amount of goals he scored this last year, and now he's finding that somebody else is going to be first choice before him.
Yep, Dembele with 8 goals in the last 7 games, and the Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers fairly happy with him.
We were very fortunate to get a top young player, you know, as you say, a French under-21 international who scores goals at that level, and when you can perform like he has down in England at such a young age, of course that was, we always anticipate that, but he's really happy here. He's obviously only in the door, and he, along with his representatives, were very keen for them to come to here and develop, and I think he's loving his life here in Glasgow and playing for Celtic, and like as I said, he knows that he's still on that pathway for learning and developing, and he's at the best club at this moment in time to do that.
Okay, that's Celtic against Motherwell. Any slip-ups there?
Not for me.
No, I can't see any. Can't see any at all.
Okay, here's my tip for second. We're going to talk about now Hearts against Dundee. In the time that you've been away, Hugh, they've revealed they've got the all clear
stand,
for the
yeah.
main stand from the City Council. It's all looking good. They've got a nice new museum there, positivity around the club, and of course a team that Robbie Neilson just keeps in the mix. I think they're definitely my tip for second place.
Are they? Aye.
Yep.
That's an interesting shout. I think it's a good shout as well. It's an interesting one though. I think the lesson for Hearts, you know, goes well beyond the Gorgie Road, because what happened with Hearts is Hearts went into financial meltdown, and then they came up with a plan, and they've stuck to the plan. And people think at times it's all been sweetness and light, but I remember when Gary Locke was sacked and players like Jamie McDonald were let go, people were saying, oh, this is terrible, etc., etc. But they've stuck to their plan, they've reaped the rewards of it, the fans are well on board there, and it's been a really great Scottish story. I'm interested in I think the second place will be a really interesting battle this year, but Hearts are in there punching, certainly.
Yep, absolutely. Good win at Motherwell. I just think, you know, there's a real confidence boost. I mean, I think Jamie Walker was coming out and saying, you know, all of the boys at Tynecastle will be getting a real lift from the fact that Callum Patterson is in the Scotland setup, and he's managed to get a couple of games under his belt as well. So it's a tremendous incentive when you get players picked.
Yeah, it is, and you have to be in the dressing room to experience it. You know, there's always a bit of banter when you come in. You know, where have you been? Where were you up with? What players were you talking to? It's great for the club, and it's great, you know, that he's getting these games. And Hugh's right about Hearts Football Club. They've got a level of expectancy that we've seen when things haven't been, like getting knocked out of Europe, and there's been a wee odd moan here or there, but it hasn't been sustained. You know, they've kept on. The supporters have kept on board with everything that's been happening at the club, and quite rightly so, and that's why they're getting the success.
Yep, okay. Who's your tip for second, Ruffy?
Hearts.
Have you gone with Hearts as well?
Yep.
I'm Swithern. It's not a good place to be as a pundit saying I don't quite know, but I thought Aberdeen at the beginning of the season, but I'm less convinced now. I think Hearts are a good shout, yeah.
Yep, okay. Wow, I've managed to convince everybody in the space of one part of the programme. Listen, long way to go in this programme. People can change their minds. The Aberdeen fans won't be happy at that. They've got a few players now. Again, we're talking about international football. Managers keep talking about playing levels. You know, Craig Brown was on last night talking about some players not getting European experience, but if you get club experience, you can get international experience. Suddenly that can build you up. And you know, Adam Rooney's talking about that aspect of their team. If they can get more and more players playing international football, it will help them.
Yeah, I think it will. It's interesting. Lee Wallace, a couple of years ago, when Rangers were in the lowest division, he was put up at a press conference, a Scotland press conference, and he was very honest about he'd found the training that morning completely almost unmanageable. It was so quick, it was so first touch. He said, I've seemed to have got used to a lower league, you know, and he says, I've got to get up to speed very, very quickly. So at all times, it's like everything else, any trade you're in, any profession you're in, if you're going up a level, you've got to raise your game.
Yeah, okay. Aberdeen, Ross County, any slip-ups?
No, I think Aberdeen will win that.
This is the kind of game that cost Aberdeen last year.
Yeah.
You know, we were on a good wee run. They weren't being able to take the 3 points.
Hearts, Dundee?
Hearts, banker.
Hearts.
We'll soon find out if it is a banker tomorrow in your treble selection, Ruffy. Okay, from the Premiership, we'll discuss a couple of the other fixtures, and then we'll look at the Championship, League One and League Two. We might even look ahead to Champions League next week, as well as the Barclays Premier League. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, Hugh McDonald also with us in the studio. What about your team, Partick Thistle, Ruffy? What's going to happen there?
This is a big game tomorrow. This is the proverbial 6-pointer. I think Partick Thistle need to show that when they get that first goal that they can see out a game, and I'm sure Alan Archibald would love to win 3-0, you know, but I think he knows that doesn't happen very often. I think the good thing about it is, from Partick Thistle's point of view, I think Hamilton have lost possibly their best player they've had for a long time, and the goalkeeper, the boy Matthews, he's out injured. I've been really impressed with him. So they'll have to bring somebody else in, obviously, but I think this is the kind of game that they've got to win. Now, this is a must-win for Partick tomorrow.
Yep, it's no wins in 7. And again, it's just that sense of, you know, you don't want to become detached. And I hate when Ruffy says it's the proverbial 6-pointer. I can just hear Ken Dalglish echoing in my head, how have they changed the point system?
I think one thing that Partick Thistle got going for them is Alan Archibald and the team have been through a bad patch last season and came through it. But it is a hugely vital game. I mean, we're sitting in October and we're talking about must-wins, and I think we're talking quite rightly about must-wins because these are the games where Hamilton at home, that's got to be a 3-pointer. You know, it's got to be you win that match. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking and I'm thinking, Ruff, there's only a point between them.
Yeah, but psychologically, you win that game, you come off the bottom. I think
Yep.
we all know through the years that when you're down in the bottom, and then that wee gap starts appearing, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then you've got to dig yourself a hole at the end. But yeah, I think a win would be a great confidence booster tomorrow.
Okay, if you don't want to face a team when you think you need to add to your squad, I mean, Lee Clark has brought in 17 players and someone says he thinks he might need another one. I'm looking, I'm thinking to myself, good luck with that.
So it's as if he's assembling a brass band and he needs a second trumpeter or something, 18 of them. Although, to be fair to Lee Clark, there was a time we were thinking, his time was up. So he's stuck in there.
Yeah.
He's stuck in there.
Which is fantastic on the basis that there's that much turmoil in the background. It's maybe taking their eye off it.
Exactly. I mean, because that's a club that's, it's crazy in the background. And to me, I mean, to go off at a tangent, I mean, I can remember, and Alan will be the same, that the Kilmarnock were a huge club. Huge attendances, a club that played so well in Europe, had top class players, and you go down there, the last couple of times I've been down there as a punter, not as a pressman, been down there, 3,000-4,000 in that vast stadium, and you're sitting there and you go, oh goodness, what's happened here?
Yeah, and full marks to Tommy Wright. I like to sing his praises on the programme, Ruffy. They're fourth, St Johnstone. Again, week in, week out, there's no point in saying now, they surprise everybody. They don't surprise me. They're just consistently a side that can.
They are. They get to the stage now. If it's not a win, it's a draw. There's not that many times they get beat. I don't think they'll get beat again tomorrow. I think they've got a great bond up there with all the players. Any of the players that we have in the show, they all talk each other up, and I think they'll win that one tomorrow as well.
Okay, let's look at the Championship because where Rangers were in it last season. Okay, there was the main focus of attention, but I think it's a fantastic league this year.
Super league.
The fixtures for tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to say St Mirren Dundee United could be a contender for game of the day. Somebody will argue Raith Rovers Hibs, somebody will argue Falkirk Dunfermline. That's the measure of it. And of course, let's not forget, Queen of the South are top of the table.
Exactly. What's been surprising since I left when I went abroad for the little jaunt,
Yes.
Hibs were chuntering away with it. Yeah, it was how far they were going to win. And since I've been away, that league's really tightened up. I still think Hibs will win that league, but I mean, Queen of the South have been superb. Ayr United as well under Ian McAuliffe had a couple of good results recently as well coming up.
Here's my tip.
Right.
Falkirk to upset the apple cart.
Yep.
If Hibs lose, I expect Queen of the South to falter. I'm sorry. I mean, if Dobby gets injured, then the game's a bogey. But Falkirk for me to upset the apple cart. If Hibs falter, I suggested to Ruffy Hibs would run away with it. I don't see any reason whatsoever that they shouldn't do that. If they don't, then there's Neil Lennon must be fighting with the players over the next months if they don't run away with it. But Falkirk, I think, are going to be over this festive period going into November, December, pushing.
So you're saying Hibs will win it and Falkirk will win it?
Well, Hibs will win it, but if there's a slip up, Falkirk will win it.
Right, okay.
What do you think?
I'm just going the Hibees. I just think they'll win it. I think he's got at his disposal much better resources than anybody else, and I think the longer the season goes on, he's got more options. Up front he's got Cummins, he's got Holt, he's got Brian Graham. He's not going to rely. Even one time if Cummins got injured, you go, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? You say, no, Graham will score at that level. Holt will do all right.
Yeah.
He's got he's got strong midfield as well. No, I just think Hibs will still win it.
Yeah, and St Mirren against Dundee United. What a great start for Jack Ross, that game.
Yeah, there's nothing better getting into a team when you're a new team when you've just won a game, and I'm sure that the dressing room tomorrow will be oozing of confidence. Again, I think that's one of the reasons why I think Hibs will win it, but not by a landslide, because teams like Dundee United and Queen of the South will all take points off each other. I think they'll start cutting each other up, and Hibs will go on some kind of run. But I think it's going to be a great league. It's been a great league for the last two seasons, so I don't see how this one's going to be any exception.
Yep, it's tight in the Championship. What about League One? Let's have a look at your fixtures for tomorrow in League One. It's Brecon against Alloa. It's Livingston Albion Rovers. Queen's Park against East Fife. Stenhousemuir against Stranraer. Airdrieonians taking on Peterhead. There's no point in me suggesting who I think is going to win that league, Hugh, because I took Peterhead and it's gone pear-shaped. I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, when is the surge from Jim McAnally's side?
Well, funnily enough, they did go in a surge last year. I think it was like he went in the surge round about maybe a bit later, and it's 16, 18 games unbeaten. So, I mean, Jim can produce that. And the interesting story is, you know, Jim Goodwin in Alloa, and, you know, can he just take up the reins from what Jack Ross was doing and go forward? I think, you know, I know Jim a little bit, and you know, I've got a kind of professional relationship with him, but I think he's perfectly capable of being an intelligent, articulate, innovative manager. But we'll find out, because it's all about results.
Yep, and well done to Gary Naismith, the East Fife Manager of the Month.
Well, he just keeps doing it. I mean, I was thinking that he must have been very, very close. You know, seeing the St Mirren job come up, somebody must have been marking him down as a possibility as well. They went more for the potential of that shining great start by Jack Ross, but Gary Naismith's been doing it for a couple of seasons.
Yep, he's a good lad. Big friend, like what Gary Naismith's doing there. And of course, let's not forget Gary Boland
Another Manager of the Month.
Forfar as well, winning Manager of the Month. Here's how the League Two fixtures look. Arbroath against Forfar tomorrow, Cowdenbeath and an Athletic, Edinburgh City against Clyde, Montrose, Elgin City, and Stirling against Berwick Rangers. That's how it looks in League Two. Down south, after the turmoil of the draw for Gareth Southgate's England against Slovenia, now it's back to domestic issues. Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal, Swansea, Bournemouth against Hull, Manchester City, Everton, Stoke against Sunderland, West Brom, Tottenham, Crystal Palace, West Ham, and on the Sunday, Middlesbrough against Watford and Southampton, Burnley. Wow, two fantastic games, which means I'll be going out on Sunday and not staying in. And Liverpool, Manchester United,
staying in Monday.
Staying in on Monday night.
Staying in on Monday.
But Sunday, I would think. Now there are games that I look at, I think, no, I'm going out on the bike, Ruffy. You know,
On the bike?
on a Sunday.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'll be maybe going for lunch somewhere.
Yeah, okay. Chelsea-Leicester, that's the early kick-off. Costa on fire. Leicester, the champions. It's
Yeah,
amazing. I still say that. Just might as well say it all season.
But again, the Chelsea manager's coming under a bit of stick.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's wondering where he's staying or where he's going to go. But I think he'll stick in there. I think we all like him charging a bit like a lunatic every time they score.
Yeah, and that's the nature of that league now, because October is when other managers who are out of a job start to think about going into one.
Yeah, and the amount of money now it's in that league, we've talked about it earlier in the programme, top four is everything
Yeah.
to get into that Champions League.
Just before we go, Hugh, you were on your travels in Spain, just taking in a few La Liga matches. Was the standard, the technical football, was it great to watch?
It was really good to watch. The team that really, I saw Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid, and I saw Atletico Madrid twice, once at home and once at Barca. And Atletico Madrid, to me, I mean, we all know about Barca.
Yeah.
But Atletico Madrid to me were absolutely superb.
Could you watch them every year in the Champions League final?
I could watch them every week.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really. I mean, see watching them live, they're fantastic.
That's good enough for me. I wish Ruffy and myself could go and just saunter across Europe watching La Liga matches. That would be great. Incidentally, we'll be in Germany for Borussia Dortmund Celtic in the Champions League, and we're going to be there on our Wednesday special if you can join us. But tomorrow, we're on at 2 on Saturday.